Welcome into the Buffalo Bills Dynasty preview. Looking at the Bills from 2023 and beyond. It is Super Bowl Sunday. It feels weird, like asking you your Super Bowl prediction because this probably isn't going to get posted till Wednesday. So, but anyways, what's your Super Bowl prediction, Brian, for today? Chiefs or Niners?
Yeah, I think you just still have to go with the Chiefs, given the history and everything. Like it's kind of funny they've been like underdogs like the last 3 weeks, I think, or maybe it's 3 weeks including this week. I don't know. It's just kind of like, man, that's crazy. Like it's like, what have they shown us besides they can win all the Super Bowls? So I feel like that's kind of the easy choice, but I know are the Chiefs still underdogs?
Yeah, I think plus 2.5. Maybe it's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just feels like the Chiefs things just bounce their way. Like they're good. Obviously, they're good, and yeah, I don't know. It just they're just the new Patriots essentially. Like it's at 1.5 now, so it actually went down a little bit. Maybe because Drake the rapper put like $1 million bet on the Chiefs, so maybe that helped bring the Chiefs a little more even. So yeah, plus 1.5.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I did hear this was on Friday that there was $1 million bet and like 5 or 6 six-figure bets, but they were all on the Niners. So it was definitely all like the whales kind of were leaning that way. So yeah, that balanced it out a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good game. That's the big thing, but we will see there. But anyways, we're talking about the Buffalo Bills Dynasty and beyond. They went 11-6 last year. They, Sean McDermott, still their head coach. They got eliminated by these Chiefs in the divisional round once again. Just can't get over that hump. They are 51 million in over the cap or in the hole, so that's second worst behind, I forget who, but probably the Saints. And they have 11 draft picks, which was pretty cool to see. So they're gonna, a lot of them are 5th, 6th rounders, but they're gonna rebuild a lot through the draft and hopefully fix that draft cap position. And it just feels like they're in a little bit of like maybe a soft rebuild. We'll talk about more of that as we get into the players and stuff. No big names in terms of free agents fantasy wise. Like I guess maybe Damian Harris. Let's say the whole running back room besides James Cook essentially is a free agent. Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, and Ty Johnson. But I don't know. Those guys were you were just holding those guys because they were the backup, and that was about it. And Gabe Davis. I should definitely mention his name. He's a free agent. So yeah, we'll jump into it with Josh Allen. To me, there's nothing really to talk about. Like, it's funny. I just looked. He actually fell to QB2, and Mahomes is QB1 again. I guess, recency bias. Mahomes is in the Super Bowl. So, but I'd rather have Josh Allen over. He's the dynasty 101 in my opinion. And whatever, if you want to take Mahomes over him, that's fine. I don't care. But there's really nothing much else to talk about unless you have something to say.
No, yeah, Josh Allen 101. I agree. It does say their value is equal. They're basically the most valuable players in fantasy, in Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
whatever that is, But yeah, no, I'd rather have Josh Allen because, it's just look at the consistency,
Yeah, the dude just like, I don't know, man. Like at the end there, he was completing 15 passes, and he was still putting up over 20 points. He just falls into 20 points each week. So, fun to watch for sure. James Cook's an interesting conversation. Just mentioned that the whole running back room are free agents for this team. They have a couple other guys that maybe you've never heard of, or are just kind of 5th, 6th running backs. But what's the percentage chance or give me 1 out of 10, 10 being very likely, 1 being or not very likely, that James Cook's role is essentially the same as last year?
I'd probably put it at I'll go with like a 7. Like I'm pretty confident it'll be similar, but I mean, there's definitely a chance. Like, I'm hoping they can trust him a little bit at the goal line, get some rushing touchdowns for this dude. But that's like just here's the hoping. But I mean, if the Bills' history has taught us anything, it's like their running backs are just not super heavily involved, which is not exactly true for James Cook this year. He had basically 240 rush attempts, which kind of surprised me that he had that much. But yeah, we know Josh Allen is the running back at the goal line, kind of a thing, and then even Damian Harris and Latavius Murray this year also. So I'd like to see that go up, but I'm not super confident there. But I think he's still going to be their main rushing downs guy, and he's obviously involved in the passing game. So
yeah, I think 7's fair. I don't really see them spending a bunch. There's a lot of good free agent running backs, but I don't know. Maybe they feel the need, like they see. It is funny because like we devalue the running back, but then you think of the top 4 teams that made it, into the championship games. Ravens, pretty good running team, I'd say, even though they didn't run the ball against the Chiefs. Chiefs have been relying on Isaiah Pacheco as kind of their engine. Obviously, McCaffrey and the 49ers, and then the Lions, like 4 teams that are really good at running the ball. So maybe they see that and like, you know what, let's go out and get Saquon Barkley, and he's our McCaffrey. I don't know. I don't really see them doing that, but I guess, 7 out of 10 is a pretty good number in my opinion. It is interesting with James Cook. So week 11 is when the new offensive coordinator took over. And so I'm just looking at James Cook from week 11 on was RB10, and he finishes overall as RB11. But that is with a bye week in there. So he was averaging 15 points a game, which was close to like top 6, excluding the bye. So, and you just look at the numbers, he was definitely getting a lot more carry, 17, 16, 10, 25, 20, 16, 13. He was getting more catches as well. Just a little bit more consistent, 4, 7, or targets is 4, 7, 3, 6, 5 catches, So if you kind of just that he's going to stay on as the offensive coordinator, I forget his name, but he's still the offensive coordinator. So that's something to be positive about. Do you like the RB12 in Dynasty? Is he one of those guys where you're kind of like looking to potentially sell? Like RB12 could be the highest he ever gets?
I think it's possible that is the highest he ever gets, but I'm pretty comfortable with him in his role. We didn't really we didn't mention like the draft capital, but he was picked in the 2nd round a couple of years ago. So like they obviously like wanted him, and I think people were kind of excited about James Cook in general coming into the league. One thing that I did pull up was just like I have like a sheet here of like running back target distribution among all the teams, and Buffalo is 6th lowest. They had 86 total targets to the running back position across all their guys, and so that's a little like that's something that we were hoping, where James Cook could really excel at. And obviously like he was involved, but it's just not necessarily in their game plan. But like you did mention, offensive coordinator change and stuff, but I think he's a lock for, it's easy to say 15, but I think it's more closer to 20, but maybe not quite 20 every game. Just opportunities with rush and pass attempts. So yeah, I'm comfortable with him there. I think there's a couple of guys. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I was going to say, I think I'd rather have Cook over Ken Walker just because of the offense that he's on. But I don't know if that's exactly correct. But yeah, I think right around a low end number 1 dude like is proper.
Yeah, he does feel a little bit like a guy that I would potentially, even if I'm competing, that I would potentially cash out on, if I get the right deal. Just because, again, like you're not assuming all the risk is gone from you if they sign someone, if they draft someone, if he gets hurt. So many things can happen between now and September when the season starts to like his value could kind of plummet. And I don't think it's crazy to think again that they sign someone, that they draft someone, especially considering they have 11 draft picks. But yeah, it has to be the right price. I'd want to squeeze it first out of someone if I was going to trade him away. So going back to that target thing. So definitely better on the offensive coordinator change. So he was on pace for about 48 targets the first 10 weeks of the season, and then on pace for 63 from week 11 onwards when the new offensive coordinator came in. So that's a pretty good bump. There was definitely a change a little bit in philosophy.
Yeah, it's an extra target per game kind of a thing. Yeah, if that continues, like that could easily become 1.5 per game. Maybe he gets. Yeah, I like it.
No one else to talk about again because these guys are free agents. We don't know who's going to be the RB2 on this team. So, and no kind of, if I remember correctly, no really like deep sleeper or anything like that for the running back position. The wide receivers are going to be interesting. Stefon Diggs, man, he was. We talked about AJ Brown's fall off from the second half of the season. Diggs was an incredible fall off. Still finished as the wide receiver 10. But yeah, if you take it from like week 9 on, man, like he had one good game, 2 good games. One of them was week 18. Didn't even help you. Like he had one really good game, one kind of like okay game at half PPR, and the rest were just bad, under 7 points. Like they losing you weeks. So I don't. Is he done? Like, did he hit a wall? Because what's weird about it is, like, his target share didn't really change. Like, he was still getting 28-30% of the targets. They were throwing it less, obviously. But is that better, the fact that he was getting targets but didn't produce? Or would you rather have him not getting the targets, and that's the reason why he didn't produce? Like, I don't know what's better, really,
Yeah.
He's done? Do you think he just hit the wall? Still 30 years old only. Just turned 30 a couple months ago.
Yeah. It is obviously a little worrisome, and I guess to answer the question, I think you'd rather have him like not been getting the targets, kind of a thing. Because then it's like, well, why aren't they throwing to him? But then it's you kind of go back to like, well, targets are earned. He's not doing Stefon Diggs type things. Like, I don't know if he's done. Like, but it is a little worrisome given his age. And what they kind of say in general is, the NFL season's long, especially for these older players. And so it's easier for them to start out good. But, once you get midway through the season, it starts to kind of catch up to you a little bit. And, recovery times and all that stuff. They had a really late bye week, so that didn't help him. And he wasn't even good after the bye week. So I don't think he's like toast yet, and I think that if you can, I'm kind of on two schools of thought, I guess. Like, I think he's a good sell opportunity right now. If you can get something like worthwhile for him. I'm trying to see, like, he's wide receiver 29.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really like kind of some of the stuff that I'm seeing, like his value, or no, wide receiver 28, I guess. So he might be just a hold until, if he starts off well, then maybe try and get rid of him then. But I think he's like a decent enough package because he's one of those guys who I can totally see like his value going up, but he's not going to shoot up the board, compared to where he was. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation. You kind of have to like decide on, like, do you think he's done, kind of a thing. Like, back in October, he was wide receiver 10. Like, he's never getting back up there. There's just too many young guys coming in and all that stuff. So I think the wide receiver 29 he's undervalued there.
Yeah. First 9 weeks of the season, he was on pace for 1,600 yards. From week 10 onwards, he was on pace for 700, 800 yards. So it was like half. It was just insane. Like, only 2 games with double-digit targets, whereas he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the first 9 weeks of double-digit targets. So just very, very strange. Again, target share was still good, but Yeah, he's a tough one. I do think there's, obviously age matters in Dynasty, but there's a point where I think we take age a little bit too much, like overboard. And like,
Yeah.
there's a group of guys probably every year, like Mike Evans, Stefon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, these type of guys where like, is it crazy that any one of those guys goes out and puts up a top 5 receiver year next year? No.
Absolutely
Is there
not.
risk? Is there risk? Yeah. But like, I'm going to take those guys every day of the week over guys like Josh Downs and Romeo Dobbs, guys like that ranked around him. So
George Pickens.
Yeah. George Pickens. I understand Pickens a little bit more because it's like, all right, at least he was productive. But guys like Dobbs and like, you hope that those guys can be top 24 receivers at some point over the next few years, let alone, league winning guys that we've seen with Adams and Evans and Diggs and Allen and those guys. So, I think there's a certain point in where we do take, and so I think those guys are values, but I'm really worried about picking that or trading for them, at least high draft capital for them now in February. I kind of want to do it in like October, when I think my team's doing well and I can see that, all right, these players are also doing well. They're having a good year. But I understand that's the ideal situation, right? So would you still throw like a late second at mid to late second of this year's draft at Stefon Diggs?
Oh yeah, definitely that. Like, I think that's totally a fine thing, and you might be able to get that done. You might have to juice it a little bit, but I have him. I always play around with the calculator, like as we're the calculator on Keep Trade Cut as we're talking about these guys. He is basically exactly valued the same as the 202 in this year's draft. So
yeah,
there you go.
And if you
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know if the person who has Diggs is doing that, and that's kind of what we talk about, but you never know until you try, and like obviously this is an average, so there are some people that are higher than that. There's a lot of people that are lower than that. So you might as well float it out there, and hopefully your league mates will actually at least talk about it or counter with something. I hate it when you send trades out and it's just like rejection, no comment, nothing. It's like, oh, like at least say like what you want, or at least like, oh, we're not even close. Like, always respond with some kind of information like, oh, I'm not looking for a receiver or something like that. Give people a little bit of context, unless you just don't want to trade, which is you're missing out on like most of the fun, I think.
Yeah. Gabe Davis. By the way, Stefon Diggs, like they talked about, is he going to be on the Bills? There's no way they cut him. Like his dead cap number is $30 million, and I don't know who's going to trade for him. So I think he's going to be on the Bills next year. Gabe Davis is a free agent. Probably won't be on the Bills next year. Like, is he just? This is who he is. It's kind of hard to like buy like that he was going to be in a better situation than wide receiver 2 for the Bills and Josh Allen, right? So
for sure, I don't think it. I don't think it gets any better than that.
Yeah. So is he just like a desperation flex, best ball type of player at this point? Like he's not really going to develop into much else.
Yeah, I think so. There's best ball drafts going on right now, and I haven't jumped into any of them. But honestly, I don't even think I would take Gabe Davis at this point in best ball, like before round 15 or something like that, and that might be like way off, but just in general, it's like I don't know if he's going to be there. I don't know. There's a lot of like question marks, like you said. Like I don't think his situation gets any better. I mean, like I think the best case scenario is that he stays where he is, or we always say, go to the Chiefs. Like I don't even think that's better. I think that's about as good as it can get. So
yeah.
I don't like Gabe Davis anymore. Like, sorry.
It's essentially 4 years. We've seen it. It's 4 years of, he's the deep ball guy, over 15 yards per reception each of his 4 years in the NFL. like 35 catches each of the first 2 seasons, 48 and 45 the last 2 seasons, 7 touchdowns almost every year. So like, just that's what you expect: 50 catches, 700 to 850 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like if you play best ball, I think it's nice in best ball, but you just want pieces essentially in best ball, because even if it's like I have 5 receivers versus Justin Jefferson, it's probably, there's a good chance that the 5 receivers are going to outscore Jefferson, depending on who they are every now and then. So, but yeah, I don't know if there's really much else to say about Gabe Davis. Khalil Shakir is a guy that definitely should be on rosters. If he's not, kind of like him. I don't think I mentioned this in like a I forget what it was, maybe a buy low video or something. As Khalil, I think it was talking about someone else who we'll get to, but I was basically saying like Khalil Shakir to me is going to be the 3rd receiver on this team. Not necessarily 3rd in production, but he's going to come in when they have 3 wide receivers out there. They just want him to play the big slot role. And there's value in that. He flashed at times, he was a 5th round pick, I believe. And he showed some explosive plays. And so he could be 2nd wide receiver in terms of production on this team, depending on what they do in the draft. Important to note that they are one of the most popular teams to be mocked a receiver, because there's a lot of good receivers coming out. So, they're after you get the top 3-4 guys, there's a couple more that are projected to go in the 20s where they're picking. So they could definitely pick up a receiver. Wouldn't be surprised if they do. But as of now, I like Shakir. Anything on Shakir for you?
No, I think, he's pretty spot on. Like, he's still ranked pretty low, which is kind of nice. Like that's where, like, he's definitely moved up. Like I see 15 spots he's moved up in the last month, mostly because like kind of like how everything finished, like where it's like, all right, yeah, like Gabe Davis was himself again. Like, so yeah, it is kind of like, I think his value is being pushed up on a lot of speculation, which is fine. That's kind of what you need to do. But I think if you could get any 2nd round pick for him, like just do that and just don't worry about it, kind of a thing. Because I do agree with you, like, or with the mocks where it's like these guys, definitely Buffalo has to address like they have a lot of stuff to address because they can't get over that hump. And wide receiver is definitely like a wide receiver is definitely needed. Because Diggs getting up there in age, and they need to do something different. Obviously, we're going to talk about Dalton Kincaid in a minute, and so there's a lot of like hope there that maybe he's kind of like the 2nd receiver on the team, but I don't know if that's really going to manifest itself. That's all going to be speculation too. So would you sell Shakir for any 2nd, even the 212?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
That's right around where he's valued. That's why I kind of picked that. Like, it's like, if you could get any 2nd, like maybe even just take a 25-2nd, like a random 25-2nd, like, yeah, why not just do that? And then just kind of move forward.
Yeah, because like right now, at best, he's the 3rd target on this team. Probably Diggs, Kincaid, and then him. And they're going to add someone. So, there's a good chance that he's like not even he's like the 4th best target on this team, or 5th with if you count James Cook or something. So yeah, I would definitely trade any 2nd. And then there's one more guy I do want to talk about at the wide receiver position, Justin Shorter. He was basically got hurt all year, and he's not short, by the way, despite his name. He's 6'4". He's essentially a Gabe Davis replacement, in my opinion. Like, if they don't address the receiver position, I think Justin Shorter could step in as like the 2nd receiver out there and kind of like that Gabe Davis role. So just a name to maybe stash for now, and just see how the offseason and draft goes, but nothing really beyond that. So yeah, I think that's it for the receivers. Kincaid, Dawson Knox. Well, I mean, Dawson Knox, he's kind of nothing at this point. He kind of just hurts Kincaid. And And then Kincaid, he's up there at tight end 4. That's fine. I'd probably just how I approach tight ends. I'd probably see what I can get for him. Like even if I can get the same pick I used for him last year, this year, I'd probably take it just because I think this draft's way deeper. We're talking about potentially the entire top 10 picks are all offensive players. Some of them are offensive linemen, but all offensive players. And we're talking about potentially 7, 8 receivers, 6 quarterbacks being taken. So, if you have the 110, 111, you could be scooping up a first round quarterback, So that's kind of how I feel about Kincaid, but I'll let you tell me how you feel.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's like he's right up. He's basically ranked right above Mark Andrews. I'd rather have Andrews just because the history and stuff. But I mean that's literally splitting hairs, so don't really have to talk too much about that. If you can trade him for, well, I guess it's a little tricky now. I guess wait to see what happens. But I was gonna say if you could trade him for Kelsey and a piece, which I think was totally doable, especially during the season. I don't know about so much now. Like the values kind of suggest that, but that's a little risky because we don't know if Kelsey's going to play. I personally think he's going to, but yeah, I'm totally fine tearing down, picking up something else. Like I think it's kind of interesting what you said about the whole, like, yeah, I would basically trade him for like the 110, like, which is kind of right around where he was going last year for this year. Kind of, it really depends on like your situation. I know there's a lot of people that feel really good about Kincaid. I mean, those are the people with Kincaid, but obviously like he came on a little bit more. I'm surprised at his touchdown numbers that he only got 2. It's not that I watched a bunch of Buffalo games, but I just thought he'd be a little bit more of a red zone threat. Kind of like we expected a little more usage there. Like kind of like what we saw with Dawson Knox the last couple of years, like not crazy touchdown numbers, but I mean 9, back in 21, 6 in 22. So yeah, I agree. Like if you kind of give those couple of touchdowns that Knox got to Kincaid, it's a little bit more respectable, but tight end was just kind of different this year anyways. Like no one got more than 6 touchdowns, except for Laporta. Yeah, it was just weird. So that could be. What's that?
Tight end was deep, but it wasn't top heavy. It was the lowest points per game for tight end 1 since 2016 at 11.5 in half PPR. So, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's. I think we kind of did see. Like I didn't necessarily buy into this very much, but I know there was a lot of like, well, Knox is the better blocker. So I mean, there was kind of 2 schools of thought like going into the season, right? Like it was like Knox is the better blocker, so therefore he'll be out on the field more. Or you kind of spun that into the Dalton Kincaid, like where it's like, oh, Knox is the better blocker, so Kincaid will be the pass catcher, which I think both of those were kind of true. Like at least to start the year, and then like they were splitting pretty evenly towards the end of the year, but obviously Kincaid was used in the passing game, so we kind of saw those things manifest the way we kind of expected, or that a lot of people expected. I didn't really think Kincaid was going to get quite as much play this year as he did. Like I was kind of just like, I think we're overvaluing it a little bit, and obviously, yeah, there was a huge Dawson Knox injury that knocked him out for like the middle third of the season. So that definitely helped, but I think they know what they got in Kincaid, and he's going to be involved for sure. So
yeah, he'll definitely be involved. Good. I think that's it for the Buffalo Bills. Relatively easy, I guess, except for the receivers.
I can't have
something else.
Yeah, this is just like a non sequitur. I don't even think that's the right word, because I think that's supposed to be like a story or something like that. I guess it's kind of a story, but did we ever talk about the logo? The Buffalo Bills logo?
I think we did, but I don't remember.
I mean, I definitely have brought it up. I've thought this for like a few years, and I've never really heard anyone else talk about it. And Dad thinks I'm stupid for saying it. But it's like, the team is the Buffalo Bills. Like, so Buffalo is not their mascot, right? That's the city. And Buffalo Bill was a cowboy, and the logo is actually, to me, it's a buffalo getting shot, and like it's a buffalo with like the bullet like flying into it basically by Buffalo Bill. So I don't know. I just thought that I was just looking at it right here, and it's like we might have brought that up before on the podcast, but write in the comments and tell me what you think. Do you think the mascot is the buffalo, or do you think it's the guy behind the rifle shooting the buffalo? That's all I have to say.
I kind of like their 1970 to 1973 logo. I'm just looking at the most. So you can look that up. But yeah. I mean, I know they've worn it in the past. I think in like the throwback jerseys, but I think it's supposed to be like the buffalo charging, right? So, and like it's showing motion of the buffalo charging or running or galloping, whatever you call it. But no, I maybe he is getting shot. Who knows?
It's kind of dark if that is what it is, but
yeah. But yeah, that's it for the Bills. And yeah, we'll be back with the Detroit Lions after that. As always, like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys in the next video.